Yeah.
So I've had many of these conversations, and at some point it dawned on me that there are really three decisions that you have to make. And those decisions can be made in any order, in any level of depth that you want, at any time that you want. So those kind of like three big mountaintops, right? That you have to climb. You can drill down into them as deep as you want and get into the nitnoid kind of details of this. But you need to know three things. One, geography. Does it matter to you? Does it not matter to you? Would you go to Madagascar if the opportunity was right? Would you pick up and move your family there? Awesome. Or are you like me where you had a geofence, right? You knew that your partner was stationed somewhere, had a job somewhere. You wanted to end up somewhere, so you figured out like what was in that space or what my options were. That's geography. You can be as specific or as broad as you want there. The next thing is the sector, right? The vertical, the functional area. Do you want to be in biomedical supplies? Do you want to be in fintech? Do you want to be in national security tech? Do you want to go work for a social media purveyor, right? Do you want to go work for the company that's providing the podcast software, right? Those are all options for you. What do you want to do in terms of how do you want to spend your time? When somebody asks you, what do you do? How do you want to answer that? Oh, I'm in cyber. Oh, I'm in defense. Oh, I'm in software, right? Those are the questions. And from there, you can get into specifics, right? But again, you can be as specific or as broad as you want. And the last one is probably the most important, and it's the role, right? And you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. One, do I care what my role is, right? Do I care? Do I want to be a part? For me, this was something that I probably said in my interviews that I thought was really cheeky at the time. Like, hey, I would be the janitor at Palantir if it would get me into this company and exposed to the people, working with the people who I had met. And, maybe it was a bit of conjecture and a bit of fluff, but I meant it at the time. And I think that like that was really important. Would I have gone and been a janitor? No. Not that there's anything wrong with being a janitor, but I know myself now. And I know that while I don't really care what it says on my business card, in fact, if I look at my business card, it literally just says my name, my number, and my email address. Uh, but if I go and do this, is it going to be fulfilling for me? Right? Am I the kind of person who's like, oh, got to be a people manager? Got to have like a team, got to, want to supervise, want to do evaluations. Am I that type of person who cares what it, or am I, type of person who cares what it says on their business card? Or am I a kind of get things done kind of person where I don't care what you call me as long as things get done? I don't care who gets credit for it as long as things get done. And that's going to help shape what role you choose along the way, right? Do you want to be a program manager, project manager, customer success manager, really one of like the unsung heroes? Or do you want to be the person who carries the flag, up the ramparts and plants it in the enemy position and gets all the glory? Which is generally the revenue producing roles, right? The people who people who close the deals get to number one, ring the gong. Number two, coffee is for closers, right? We've all seen the movie. We know the old adage. These are the decisions that you have to make. Geography, your functional vertical, and then your functional role. Those three things are like the big blue arrows that you put on a whiteboard and you start to figure out. You are going to change your mind 25 or 30 times a week. I drove my wife absolutely nuts right before she left for Afghanistan because I had so many epiphany producing conversations where I was like, oh, I really want to do this. And she was like, cool, just don't talk about it. Go away, go whiteboard, go think about this. Tell me when you've made a decision and you've accepted a job. Uh, but that's part of the journey, right? If you're the kind of person that needs to spin. I'm the kind of person that needs to spin. I do my best thinking when I'm spinning on something. Other people are like, looks like we go left and they go without a second thought. not me. But maybe that's you, and that's okay because it's about finding your path. So knowing that you have those three big decisions, if you make those decisions, you can always change your mind later. But I would say this, take the time to get the best decision that you can make made because your first job, if you absolutely hate it, let's say you work for like Satan himself or herself, and you're like, God, this is the worst thing I've ever done. How do you get through 18 or 24 months there? Because if you hop around to jobs, you develop a reputation. I can look at a resume and tell you based on the dates alone, has this person been successful in jobs? Have they been successful in the military? Have they hit the golden ticket billets that I expect for each service, for each, vertical branch, whatever you want to call it? Uh, and you get to a point where you can read that, right? Uh, but it all comes back to finding the thing that is actually going to make you happy. And this is something I say to every single veteran who's transitioning. And I know I said it to you, Billy. You are going to succeed. You are going to find a great job. You are never going to be unemployed unless you want to be, because by the nature of the things you have done and the training you've had and the experiences that have shaped you, you're going to work harder than 98% of the rest of the population. Those other 2%, you're going to be chasing them and it's going to be great motivation. Uh, but you're going to hit the workforce, and the fact that like you show up on time, you don't show up, hopefully you don't show up drunk, you're going to distinguish yourself because you're just going to work harder because you're working towards outcomes because you've always been an outcome oriented human being.
Mhm.
And if you're not, well, you better learn, right? But you're going to be fine. And I always tell people this. I say, look, the worst case scenario here, the worst case is you go back to the place where you just transitioned out of and you're like, hi, I want to be a contractor. And they will hire you almost unless you really stink, in which case I can't help you. Right. But they will find a way to carve you out space. Right. You can always fall back on that. You have a security clearance. Great. You can go be a contractor because there's so many damn jobs that are open that are gapped because somebody's not FCI eligible, right? Great. You have the ticket. You have the lifts in your shoes. You can ride this ride. You can learn everything else. If the requirement is must be, Jira literate and must know Python or SQL, like, dude, go learn it. There's your path,
Mhm.
right? So those big three questions combined with this desire to figure out what it is that you want to do are really the key to happiness here and the key to success in a transition.